Let's talk a little bit about Frisco ISD.
Mm.
So a lot going on there. Dallas Morning News, you guys just mentioned or just reported on the
Pretty much Corbett.
pretty much Corbett. Yeah. The $1.74 million apparel deal they just signed with Nike.
Big time.
This comes off the heels, obviously, of their agreement with the Star Complex that's being built up there with the Cowboys to be the main home stadium of Frisco ISD football teams, as well as the fact that we've known for some time now that we're going to have 12 Frisco ISD schools eventually. They will all be 5A football teams. That's the plan anyway.
We're at 8 now.
We're at 8 already.
Reedy's getting, or no, Lebanon
Trail.
Yeah,
is about to go.
Yeah. And Frisco Reedy.
Yeah, and Reedy. And that makes 8.
Yes.
Yes, and we still have 4 to. Good Lord.
Well, they have their own district now.
No.
They have. It's crazy.
It's its own district, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around the idea of like one district handling 12 teams. They're all going to be 5A. I don't know how they're going to be distinguishable.
I don't think they're going to all fit them into one.
Yeah, there's no way.
There's
no way.
They're going to be some that
eventually
are like
they're going to
they're like,
off.
oh, you're not cool enough to play in this sandbox. You got to play with all the other kids. And I'm like, man.
Yeah, a 12-team district would be a little ridiculous. Although it would be kind of a fun little thing.
Well, I mean, how many games are you even allowed to?
I know.
You wouldn't have non-district.
You wouldn't be able to play each other, so it wouldn't matter. But still, you should do divisions and play. Like there's a district down in San Antonio that does divisions, and they do a final district playoff game.
That's cool.
Yeah, like that's the last game of the district schedule. Like Brennan, I don't think that's going to stay that way with realignment, but that's the way it's been. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. The point is there are way too many teams up there. I couldn't even name them off the top of my head right now. If you told me to name the 8, well, maybe I could, but I'm not going to try because it'll be a waste of time here. Something you brought up before the show when we were talking about it was about this Nike deal and how the landscape is kind of changing because of these endorsement deals.
Yeah. One of the things I think is really interesting is that basketball and I'm originally like a basketball nut. I'm like one of probably 5 people in the state that like college basketball might be my favorite sport. And for so many years now, AAU has injected itself into the fabric of amateur athletics.
Yeah.
And in the sense that high school basketball is kind of taking a back seat. Because in AAU, not only are you sponsored by these shoe companies and there's tournaments and there's better uniforms, but you're playing against the best. It's like an all-star league. Right, you're going to Vegas and you're playing against because I could name teams that are AAU teams and know them better than high school teams. Yeah. Like Team Takeover, I know is a team. I know that Texas Elite, that's a team.
Right.
Which is Houston Defenders. Which is nuts.
Yeah.
And
you really shouldn't know these things, Avi.
Well, Max, whatever. Okay.
You can choose what to know and what not to know. I think
this brain, it's a sponge. It'll just soak up whatever for better or for worse.
That's actually probably true.
So that being said, there's a natural tie, and it's a very weird gray area where how are the shoe companies involved with this? Where the shoe companies sponsor the teams and they pay the coaches, and then it's like, well, this kid went to a Nike AAU basketball team, so does that mean he's going to go to Kentucky because Kentucky's a Nike college team? And we have never really seen that much crossover between big shoe companies and amateur football until now. And you already had the 7-on-7 in Austin. In Austin, right?
The championships? College Station.
It's College Station, I'm sorry. And
it should be in Austin. That'd be a lot more fun to go to. Sorry, College Station.
Wow, shade.
College Station is fine.
I've been to Austin like 3 times. I've never been to College Station.
College Station's fine. There are good bars. There's a few good restaurants.
That'll really help the high school kids.
Yeah, right, exactly. For me to tolerate a weekend there. College Station is
the worst.
It's not really low on my list of places I definitely don't want to go. But I'm sorry, Austin is Austin.
Yeah, the problem. Well, okay, we're gonna get another change. But that being said,
the point is,
so Adidas is that, right? The 7-on-7.
Right.
So
Correct.
Adidas has it locked up, and now we got the news like a couple months back that Nike is now trying to do the same thing with its own 7-on-7 series.
Yeah.
And it's happening in 7, I think, cities around the U.S.
Yeah, but
Dallas,
none in Texas.
None in Texas,
Yeah.
which I don't know what's going on there.
Well, you know what, Greg, to sum up what Greg and I talked about on the show about was, number one, what city would you put it in? Would it make more sense if you were doing a
probably
national
put
thing?
you centrally located.
You
in
would
Austin.
think, but then the thing that I brought up that kind of makes sense.
And University of Texas, so
you
Nike.
would think that too. But why not Houston? Because at least if you did Houston, you could pull the Louisiana kids over and say, oh, hey, we've got kind of a little hub there in the middle. I don't know. I think there's probably an issue there. Obviously, Adidas has a footprint in the state already. That's part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it is a little weird that they didn't include Texas. So I don't know.
And so this is all just a very roundabout way of saying that we have the shoe companies starting to penetrate that market, and now you see that football team, that high school athletic departments and shoe companies are now very much intertwined.
Right.
And connected.
Yeah.
And Corbett had a great, more kind of in-depth story about how here's the contract that Allen has with Nike, and here's the contract that Cedar Hill has with Under Armour.
Right.
And when I say new, I don't mean like this is just like that just this year, but it's a growing trend.
Yeah, it's this thing we're noticing a lot more, obviously.
We're seeing a lot more, and Mansfield ISD November announced a sponsorship with Under Armour.
Right.
So now Mansfield ISD is an Under Armour association, and so you're going to start seeing like the bigger districts and arguably the ones that are, and not even arguably, is very objective, the ones that are successful.
Right.
Which is crazy to think about.
Right.
It's like how successful your high school football team is on the field now dictates how much money you're getting.
Yeah.
Think about that.
That's, I mean,
that conceptually is a very, it's a Pandora's box.
It's pretty crazy, and we talked a little bit about this yesterday on the show about just money creeping its way more and more into high school sports. We had Brian Curtis, formerly of Grant.
Oh, he's so good.
He was here last week in the chair next to you, and we talked a little bit about how Texas high school football is still sort of preserved because the NFL is like so corrupt and they don't care about the players, and then college they don't pay the athletes, and that's a problem. But in high school, it's still very pure. Like but this creeping capitalism is getting worse and worse, and from IMG to these sponsorship deals, and you can sort of draw your line wherever you want to on when we're crossing it or when we're going too far. I'm sure a lot of people would assume or feel like we already have.
And the devil's advocate says these are public schools getting more money.
Right.
Now, some of the districts I'm sure are okay without the extra influx, but it's like, you're getting more money.
Right. And they all could probably use it.
And could shenanigans arise from that? Like, absolutely. I don't know if you saw the story with the Allen principal.
Yes.
Why, yeah. So, I mean, for some reason, people tend to like money, and like sometimes they do not so nice things when that's involved. But there's definitely different sides to the argument. But I think objectively, what you can say is it's inevitable.
Right.
It's a natural pairing when you have ESPN going to nationally broadcast Texas high school football games, as was the case last year with now I'm going to totally blank, with De La Salle and Trinity, and then you had DeSoto and Arlington Martin, which isn't even like an interstate, like
it's
multiple.
Not even a big deal.
It's like all within DFW, and obviously it's all through recruiting. Like they're gonna play up Tristan Wallace. Oh, that's a Ohio State kid. Well, at least that time. So. It's and the Frisco thing, and again, I think this is huge. I'm just going to pull up the story. The quote from the Frisco ISD athletic director: "Had the Star, which is the Cowboys practice facility out there, not been built, this deal would not have been on the table."
Yeah,
Jerry again.
Right. Yeah, and that's good. Let's change gears. Let's talk about how ridiculous this thing is. Like,
in a good way.
In a good way.
In a good way.
We've talked so much about Allen Stadium, and now Katie is building theirs, which is $61 million.
Is it really?
Yeah. Instead of 60.
I have such bad DFW blinders on.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, oh, that's cute.
They're breaking ground on the new Katy ISD school or stadium, and it will cost $61, not $60. $61 million.
I was going to say.
Yeah.
What a deal.
$1 million more than Allen. So, Capacity of only 12,000 though, so they kind of missed the boat there because it's not really.
Well, that was the funny thing. People were surprised when we did a whole thing on stadiums, and Allen's is not the biggest by capacity.
Right.
It's Mesquite ISD Memorial
okay,
after they did their renovation. But yeah, go ahead.
But anyway, the point is just this facility, and I'm showing some pictures of it here on the show, is completely ridiculous. It's awesome. You know, they're sharing it with the Cowboys, obviously, but it's going to be the home stadium at Frisco ISD.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of wondering what this does for the cachet of Frisco ISD football. Here's a question for you. Does this elevate those programs to maybe a level they wouldn't have gotten to before, or does it all come down to success?
I think it's very interesting because, as we know, Lone Star made it to state this past year for the first time. And when you have 8 teams, you know, you're going to have some that aren't very good, and then you're going to have some that are pretty. To me, it comes down to whether you're trying to get local exposure or national exposure.
Right.
I think with some of these programs, or even statewide to that extent, I think with some of these high school football programs, your Cedar Hills, your DeSoto's, your Allen, there is I knew about those places before I moved to Texas.
Right.
Which is nuts.
Yeah, it is crazy.
It's crazy, but it's true. Like, you know about these places before they're here. Frisco, I don't think is ever going to reach a national level of awareness.
Right.
I don't. I mean, a lot. You would have to have a revival where I don't know. You would just have to become a hub for a ton of talent, which you could get kids moving in, but you're not gonna. If you're playing against other Frisco schools, you're not playing against the giant.
Right. I mean, I think we're gonna see. You would assume we're gonna see a situation similar to what's going on in Mansfield right now, right? I mean, just on a bigger scale. Every year, it seems like one of those teams is the best team, right? You know, and that's sort of emergent. Mansfield as a collective has a lot of respect within the state now because of the coaches they put together and the kids and the teams that they put out. But we're not sitting here only talking about Lake Ridge every year. Right. You know, it kind of just depends on the year.
And Lake Ridge will probably be down this next year.
They've lost 2 great players, obviously.
Right.
Jet
whereas
Duke Carter as well as a few others.
Whereas with these other programs, you're like, they're going to be good. You just they're going to reload. Like Cedar Hill is going to be ridiculous. Ridiculous.
A little bit different
this year. And so I think Frisco, you're going to get more statewide notoriety because they are now the school with the star, or the school district with the star.
Right.
You know, that's their identity. They're the school district that got the Nike contract.
In the media mafia, as we say, we're going to be talking a lot about, how cool that facility is and how much fun it is to go see a game there, or surprisingly, how much we hate it. We don't know.
It's an entire little town.
Right.
That's the weird part that I think people forget is that they're shopping there. They are making this like a destination. Like, don't make an afternoon out of it. Make a day of it. Like, in addition to going to the football game, we want you to shop. There's the Dr. Pepper Snapple Group, another company I'm reading with a partnership with the Cowboys at the Star, signed a 10-year, $3.77 million deal agreement with Frisco ISD in December. It's big business.